What's going on YouTube? Today we are inside of Affinity Designer, and in today's tutorial we are going to take a look at how to create a digital business card, something you will save on your phone that you can show to your friends or your customers, where they can scan your QR code with their smartphone and that will take them to your Linktree account where you will find all of your individual social links all in one place. So if this is something you would like to learn, then let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we want to do is set up our page width and our page height. And a good size for this type of project is going to be a page width of 720 pixels and a page height of 1280 pixels. As for the DPI, we'll go ahead and leave that the way it is. Then underneath that, you can see we have this create artboard option. I'm going to go ahead and leave that checked, as I'm going to explain why I like to use artboards towards the end of the tutorial. So with all of this now set up, all we need to do is go ahead and hit that create button to get started. So here we are inside of the Affinity Designer interface, and right here in the middle we have the artboard 1, which contains our canvas where we're going to create our design. So before I continue with the tutorial, I just want to quickly mention that I'm currently using Affinity Designer V2. However, if any of you guys are still running Affinity Designer V1, then you can still follow along with this tutorial. As a matter of fact, because we're only using images, basic shapes and texts, you could also do this inside of Affinity Photo or Affinity Publisher. So with that out of the way, the first thing that we want to do with our design is create ourselves a background. So I've seen people use images as their background, whether that be some kind of abstract art with all different patterns and colors, or an image that showcases the type of work that they do. So for instance, if you guys are photographers, you may want an image of a camera in the background. That is entirely up to you. However, for me, I always feel like less is more. And with this type of design, I just want to make it a little bit simple that is easy on the eyes and easy to read as you take a quick glimpse at it, rather than trying to figure out what's going on in the background. So with that said, the first thing I'm going to do is head over to the left-hand side toolbar menu, and I'm going to grab myself the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to drag it from the top left-hand corner all the way down to the bottom so I can fill that entire canvas. And now that will allow us to change the color of our background, so I'll go ahead and give that a different color. However, for this design, I think I want to go with a gradient background rather than a solid color. So in order to do that, we're going to make our way over to the top left-hand corner to where we have the fill option. Inside of here, we're going to make sure that we are on our gradient. Then it's just a case of selecting any one of our colors in here and going down to our color option and changing that to anything that you'd prefer. So we'll go ahead and change that one for a moment. Then we'll go and change the one over on the right hand side also. And another thing that we can do inside of here is add additional colors to our gradient. And the way that we would do that is by double tapping anywhere along this line, and that'll create ourselves a new color. And we'll go in there and also change that to something a little bit different. We can also change the type of the gradient inside of this drop down menu right here. So just have a little play around with those and see which one you prefer. So at this point, I'm going to pause the video so I can play around with these colors a little bit and find something that I like from my background. So you guys can also feel free to pause the video at this point and find some colors that you like for your background, and I will see you in just a moment. Okay, so these are the colors that I went with, and I'm quite happy with the way that my background looks. So what I'm going to do next is just bring in a few different shapes just to add to our design. So I'm going to make my way over to the left-hand side toolbar menu, and once again, I will grab the rectangle tool. And I'm just going to drag this over from one side of the canvas to the other. Just make a rough size rectangle that you are happy with. Of course, you guys can use any shapes that you like. So what I want to do with this is angle it from the top left-hand side, coming over the other side of the canvas. So I'll go ahead and I'll rotate that using this option right here to rotate. And I'll go over to the left-hand side toolbar menu, grab my move tool. Then I'll position that to where I roughly want it to go for the moment. We can always come back at any point and fine adjust all of these finer details and move them around wherever you may want them to go. But for now, this will do. I'm just going to make that a little bit wider. So what I want to do with this rectangle is change the colors of the gradient, just so it blends in a little bit better with the background. So just like before, I'll go and change all these colors here. And I'll just pause the video at this point so you guys don't have to sit around watching me do this. But once again, feel free to pause your video and go ahead and find all the colors that you're happy with, and I'll see you once again in a moment. Okay, so I'm quite happy with these two colors that I've got right here. So I think what I want to do next is bring in another shape just to fill this section down here and at the bottom. So the quick and easy way of doing this is to make a copy of this rectangle right here. So with that selected, if we hit Command or Control C to copy and Command or Control V to paste, that will then give us another copy of the rectangle that we already created. And all I'm going to do with this one is rotate that round and just try and line that up with this one over here. So just have that sat just on top of that one and line that up the best I can. And I'm going to make that one a little bit thinner on the edges. And that should be perfectly fine. I could come back and change this later on if I'm not happy with it. But for now, I'll just leave that the way it is. So all I really want to do now in terms of the background is just add one more shape down here at the bottom. However, looking at this, we don't have a lot of room down here. So what I'm actually going to do is select both of these rectangles. So I'll select the one on the top, then I'll hold down Shift and select the one underneath that so I can grab them both at the same time. Then I'm just going to drag this up a little bit and move that roughly around there. Then that's going to give me a little bit more room down here for another shape. So with that said, what I'm going to do now is go back over to the left-hand side toolbar menu. And this time round, I'm going to grab an ellipse tool. And I'll go and hold down Shift on my keyboard as I drag this out. That way that's going to be a perfect round circle. And you can make that as big as you like. So I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bit bigger than what it is. Then I'll grab my move tool and just move that into place of where I want it to go. Then I'll just center my screen with Command or Control 0. And what I want to do with a circle is kind of give it the same gradient that we have over here on our rectangles. So the quick and easy way of doing this is to copy the style. So if we select the rectangle, any one of those, it really doesn't matter. We'll go up to the top to where it says edit, just hit copy. Then we'll go and select our circle, go back up to edit once again and select paste style. Then that will copy that gradient over to that circle. And now looking at that, I'm quite happy with the way that is for my background. So we can go ahead and continue with the rest of the design. So what we've got to do next is bring in another shape for our profile picture or an image of our logo, whichever you guys prefer to use. So we'll make our way back over to the left-hand side toolbar menu. This time round, I'm going to select myself a rounded rectangle tool. And once again, I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard as I begin to drag this out. That way it's going to remain a perfect square and you can make that as big as you like. So for now, I'll keep that around 280 pixels and I'll just go and grab my move tool once again, just center that in the middle of the canvas and put that roughly where I want it to go. Then I'll want to add myself a white border around our square. So I'll make my way over to the right hand side color panel and I'll select that stroke right there, which is currently black, and we'll go and change that to white. Then what we need to do is go into our stroke menu and adjust that width to make that as big as you like. I'll keep that around 5 pixels or points. If you guys aren't seeing the stroke menu on your right hand side, then all you have to do is go up to the window on the top menu bar, go down and select the stroke option right there, and that'll be available to you also. So next we need to either bring in a logo or an image of ourselves. So just to be quick, just to show you how you can use an image, I will just search for man and just see if I can find any random profile picture. Maybe that one right there. So I'll go and drag that over and just drop that onto the canvas. That's far too big at the moment, so I just need to zoom out real quick just to find those handles and readjust the size of that image and just drop that onto the canvas. And I'll just zoom back in. So what we need to do in order to get this profile picture inside of our square is we want to nest it inside of that shape. And the way that we would do that will be over on the right hand side inside of our layers panel. If we select the image and we just drag and drop this on top of this other shape, once that highlight's completely blue just like that, go ahead and let go. And now that is masked inside of this shape. We can't see it at the moment because we need to actually select it and drag this up. But as you can see now, that is masked inside of that shape, and we can go ahead and adjust that image to fill that frame if you like, to make it bigger or smaller. So obviously this will be a picture of any of you guys that may be creating this with an image rather than just a random stock photo. So what I want to do is just go ahead and turn the visibility off on this image for the moment, because I want to show you how we're going to put our logo in here as well. So the first thing that I want to do is change the color of the background. So with our rounded rectangle selected, once again, we'll go up to our fill and we'll just go and change these colors just to match our background a little bit. So those are the colors that I went with. And all we got to do now is I'm going to go into my assets folder, as this is where I store all of my logos and things that I use in various projects. So before I go ahead and just bring my logo in, I'm going to select our rounded rectangle, and I just want to put a drop shadow on that. So we'll make our way over to the right hand side and we'll go down towards the bottom where it says effects. Then we'll go ahead and select the outer shadow, and we'll change that radius and the offset to around 5 pixels on both and see how that looks. That doesn't look too bad. I'm quite happy with that. So moving on, I'll go and select my logo right here and just drag this onto my canvas. Just got to resize that a little bit to fit inside of that box and go ahead and just move that into position. So that step is now complete. And what we need to do next is we're just going to bring in our name underneath that with maybe a little subtitle of what it is that you do. So making our way back over to the left hand side, we'll go ahead and we will select our frame text tool, and we'll just drag from one side of the canvas over to the other just to make sure our text stays in the center of our design. Then inside of here, you just write your name and any kind of subtitle you would like underneath that. So there is my name followed by graphic design and content creator. And all I did here with the text at the bottom is just change the size of the font to a different size than the one at the top. However, you guys can use any sizes and fonts that you would like. And of course, go and position that anywhere you would like to place that. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make a copy of this text right here with Command or Control C the copy and Command or Control V the paste. Then I'm just going to double tap and edit all of this text. And I'm just going to write just a little bio inside of here. It doesn't have to be long, or it can be as long as you like. But it's just a little bit of information about you that people can read as they decide whether or not they want to scan your QR code. So that will do fine. All I did was just bring this in a little bit just to push that text a bit closer together, just so I can get more on the lines underneath that. So you can do whatever you like with your text. Then I also want to make sure I center that as well and just position that roughly where I would like to place it. So what I also want to do with this is maybe just put a box in the background of this. So I'll go back over to the left hand side toolbar menu, grab a rectangle tool, and I'll go ahead and just draw this out to any size that I'm happy with. Make sure over in the layers that I place that behind the text. Then what I want to do is turn off the fill of this. So that's going to be transparent using that circle right there with a red line through that. And I'll make sure my stroke is white. And what I want to do inside of the stroke menu is I want to use dotted lines rather than a solid line. And I'm going to make that a little bit smaller in width, maybe somewhere around 2 points. Then using these options down here, we'll go ahead and select this second box right there, and we'll go and change that number. That then is going to give us a little bit more spacing in between all of these dots. So I'll go with the number 3 and we'll see how this looks. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to leave that the way it is. Then finally, what we really need to do now is just bring in our QR code. So just like before, I have mine saved inside of my assets, which is right here. So I'll drag and drop that over and I'll resize that to the size I'm happy with. So what I need to do with this is change the color because I want this to be white. And the quickest and easiest way of doing this is by making sure that we have that selected, going down to where it says effects. Then inside of our effects, we're going to choose color overlay and we're going to change that to the color white. And that looks a lot better and easier to read. So what I need to do now is I'm going to make that a little bit smaller and just make sure I center that in the middle. I want to put a bit of information on here regarding what we use this for. So just up here in my assets, once again, I have this image of this camera phone. And I just got this off Google by just searching camera phone PNG. So you guys can go ahead and search that as well. And you may find this image in there amongst many others that you can use. So once I've got that in place where I want it to go, all I want to do next to this is have a little bit of information about what we're supposed to do with this. So I'll just put snap with your smartphone camera for social links right next to there. So once again, I'll go and grab my frame text tool and I'll just draw out a box right there and I'll just type that text inside of here. So with that now complete, all I want to do is just bring in another rectangle behind this just so it separates that from the background a little bit. So just like before, we'll go and grab our rounded rectangle tool and just draw that out to be a rough size that you like. So I'll make that a little bit bigger and I'll grab my move tool, move that over. I kind of like the way that we have the dotted lines around this as well. So I'm going to leave that the way it is. But what I do want to do is give that a fill of black. So we'll go ahead and change that color. We've got to make sure this layer is behind our text so we can see it. So we drop that below that one. as well as below our logo and barcode, just like that. Now we've got them all where we need them. Then what I need to do next is just drop the opacity a little bit on our black rectangle, just so we can see through that, just to make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to drop that down to around 60% and just see how that looks. That's not too bad. I think I could go a little bit lighter, so I'll go ahead and drop that down a little bit more. Probably around 40% looks pretty good in my opinion. What I don't really like is how rounded these corners are. That's one thing that I do want to change. So with our rounded rectangle selected, if we just go up to our top menu bar, you can see we have this corner option right here. All we've got to do is change this percentage from 25 to maybe around 10 and just see how that looks. And I'm definitely more happy with that. If anything, I just want to adjust that a little bit more just to make that fit in and just move it up a little bit and just make sure that is centered in between all of that the best you can. And just like before, we'll go ahead and put a drop shadow on there. So we'll go into our effects, go down to outer shadow. On the radius and the offset, we'll give that 5 pixels just to keep that consistent with the rest of the design. Go ahead and hit close. And that is pretty much all we need to do in terms of our QR code. So this QR code right here is a service called Linktree, and I will leave this link in the description. It's a completely free to use service. All you got to do is create yourself an account and just add as many links in there that you like, whether that is going to be for your Facebook, your Insta, your YouTube, your personal website, anything that you would like. Then once you go ahead and scan this barcode right here or this QR code, that will then direct you to the Linktree website or app where you'll be able to see all of your links in one place, which is so much easier than having to show people individual links and profiles for all of your social media. So what I want to do at this point is I want to come over to the right hand side and I want to start grouping things together, such as all the background elements. So we'll go ahead, we'll select that rectangle at the bottom. I'm going to hold down Command or Control while selecting the rest of these background elements. Then I'm going to hit Command or Control G to group. Then we'll go ahead and just rename that background by double tapping on that. This just makes it a lot easier if you want to start moving things around as a whole or resizing them. And once again, I'll just drag in my logo just below that rounded rectangle, and then I can just call that logo area or profile picture, whatever you want to call that. Then next we'll select that teaching you new skills as well as that rounded rectangle in the background of it. We'll group that together as well, and we'll just call that bio. And then what we are really left with are just all of these elements right here, which are going to make up our QR code designs. We'll go ahead and group that as well, and we'll just call that QR. And it's just a way of keeping organized so we don't end up with far too many layers down here that we can't keep track of. So just before I end this video, I talked about at the beginning why I set up artboards, and I'm going to demonstrate the reason why right now. So if I go ahead and I'll select my artboard one at the top here, and I'll make a copy with Command or Control C, then Command or Control V to paste. That then is going to give me another copy of the artboard, which I'm going to go ahead and drag over to the side of that. And I'll just go and adjust my screen so we can see them both. So with this one, I'll just go ahead and call that artboard 2 or anything that you would like. And all we got to do now inside of here is we can go and change all of our different colors and stuff just to make it a completely different background to the one that we have here and just come up with a whole different design. And the point of doing this is the fact that we can keep our original one and we can keep duplicating them and coming up with all different design ideas in the background, as well as maybe having different shapes as your profile picture, or moving some of these other elements around. That doesn't look too good, but it's just a quick demonstration. But once again, we'll go ahead and make another copy and paste that one as well and drag that out. Then inside of this one, we can go ahead and maybe just turn off that background and replace that all together. So what I'll do is I'll select that background all together. And this is why I also wanted to group the background, so I can delete that as a whole, as you can see. And then we'll go back over to our stock menu and we'll just find some kind of colorful background, just like that one right there, and we just drag this and drop this in, and we can just use that for a background. Like I said at the beginning, some people do like to use these as backgrounds rather than creating their own, just finding yourself a colorful image or something that's relevant to what you do. And all we got to do now is just drag this down underneath all the rest of our elements, and then that will send that all the way to the back, just like that. And you can always go ahead and just move that around and resize that to do anything you like with it. This doesn't look very good, but of course you can go ahead and start changing all the colors of your image right here just to make sure that blends in a little bit better. So once you've come up with all the design ideas that you are happy with, like I said, you can of course move all these elements around as well and position them in different places. That is entirely up to you. Start messing around with different shapes. You do whatever you like with your design. But once you are happy with what you've got, we just need to make our way up to our file menu, go down to export and just save this as a JPEG file. Then all you need to do is send that to your phone via either Dropbox, email, Bluetooth, or if you guys are on a Mac, you can airdrop that. There's various different ways that you can send the image to your phone. So one thing I want to quickly mention is this QR code right here. Once you set up an account with Linktree, you'll be able to download your very own QR code to your computer or to your phone. And then you just got to import that into Affinity Designer. So just like I said, just keep duplicating a few of your original designs, so just switching out the backgrounds a little bit and moving things around. It's really just a way of building off an original design to see if you can come up with something better or whether you like what you originally did. So that is it for today's video. I hope you've learned something new. If you did and you'd like to see some more content from me, then please go ahead and hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe, as it really helps me with the YouTube algorithm and helps other people find my content. So for now, I hope you have a great day and I will see you in the next video.